Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to week number 2 of the Perfecting Your Golf Swing Sequence series. My name is Chris Tyler and I'm going to be your golf instructor today, and I am excited to see every one of you back because I know last week was a lot of hard work. Guess what? This week is also going to be a lot of hard work, but this is where you're going to start to learn how to link your backswing and your transition together. You're going to leave this video with a very clear understanding of how and when you should start your downswing, because I know there's a million videos on the internet that live out there that tell you many different things about when you should start to shift and transfer your weight and how you should shift and transfer your weight. Today, we're going to unlock you. We're going to give you a step-by-step process. In fact, there's 3 steps that you're going to learn, and you're going to be practicing these things over the next 7, 10, 15 days, however long it takes you to get to that 1,000 rep mark, and you're going to leave here very proficient with moving from a static address position through a very, very important position in the golf swing that you see every single playing professional move into and through that plays this game of golf. Now, today, what I want you to remember is that there's going to be some very important pieces that you're going to want to understand, that you're going to look for on your camera, because you are going to want to have a camera here set up, and you're going to want to make sure that you have a golf ball down on the ground, because you're going to be training yourself to have your eyes down here, because you're going to be hitting that thing eventually. Now, the first thing I want you to look for when you do this drill right with me today is that your lead side of your body is going to be pushed up against what we call the unload line. Drawing a line up from the center of my ankle, straight up, you're going to see that my calf, my thigh, my lead side flank, and my lead shoulder are all pushed up against that line. You're also going to notice that my hips and my knees have come back to virtually a square position. My shoulders are going to look very closed with my lead arm parallel to the ground and the hands right in line with the center of the chest. So I know that last one sounded like a lot, but it's basically lead arm and the hands are going to be in the middle of the chest when it's parallel to the ground. You're going to learn how to do just that, but you're going to be looking for those checkpoints before you start to go down this pathway with me. Now, if you're ready to truly start building a better sequence, then put on your thinking hats, get ready to work, and let's get to work. Okay, so lots of information today. Do me a big favor, because we are on our road to 50,000 subscribers, and it's very important that we try to hit that number before the end of the year. It's good for my psyche and it's good for you at home, because we're gonna help continue to spread our message. Head down below, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and if you like today's video, leave us a thumbs up, and if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to post that stuff up below. We'd love to help you. And if you need help with your golf swing, like we offered you in the first video, come over to the website, sign up for free membership. The free offer is still there. We will take a look at your golf swing for free to help you to make sure that you're doing these things correctly. You got it? Let's get busy. So here's what we're gonna do in step number 1. And I know a lot of you are gonna sit at home and start getting ready to type on the keyboard that this is gonna feel like way too much to do, but you're gonna have to learn how to create the correct movement at some point in your life. I'm going to give you a lot of details, but I'm going to consolidate the way that you think about it at each one of these steps. You got it? Okay, good. Now, step number 1 is 25 reps. These are warm-up reps, and these are very slow and methodical. The idea of what we're going to be doing in step number 1 is we're going to be moving from that new load and separated position that you created in last week's video all the way into the unload line. So we're going to be taking about 80 to 90% of our weight from our trail ankle, and we're going to be parking 80 to 90% of our weight underneath our lead ankle. Thinking about where the weight lands and how much weight you're going to try to get there is the key to your success. But you're going to want to allow your head and your chest to move along with your lower body. Why? Well, because if you're turning over to your trail side and you just shift your hips left, you're not really transferring weight. So what you're going to be focusing on here is getting your head fully back into its original position by using the golf ball on the ground, if not slightly in front of where it was at address. Piece of cake, right? So we're gonna be sitting down into the load line or the unload line. We're gonna be focusing on 80 to 90% of our weight moving underneath our lead ankle. And we're just gonna make sure that our right hip has done the exact opposite of what the left hip did last week. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure that, like we learned last week, that left hip and left thigh turning in, when we start to make that shift or that sit move down onto our lead side, and we're working into that unload line, is we're now gonna allow the right hip and the right thigh to turn back in, just like you learned on week number 1 from the left side of your body. So keep this simple in your brain. 80 to 90% of your weight underneath your right ankle, 80 to 90% of your weight underneath your lead ankle, head back into its original position, allow the right hip to turn in. So we're gonna do some reps together. We're gonna do 25 reps, slow and methodical. Turn, sit down onto your lead ankle. Am I against the unload line? You betcha. Do I feel 80 to 90% of my weight parked underneath my lead ankle? Absolutely. Have my right knee and my right thigh and hip started to turn back in towards the golf ball? Absolutely. So we know that if we looked at it from a down the line perspective, that my hips have virtually come back to a square position. That is rep number 1. I want you to repeat that for 25 more reps. If you feel these muscles starting to work, those are good muscles. You're gonna feel some of your glutes really activated. Those are all good muscles to have. Back check your 25 reps on camera. If you got 100%, then you're ready to start taking on step number 2. Step number 2, this is where we start using the correct muscle tension signals to start changing the direction of the golf swing. We're gonna start linking these two things together. The 2 checkpoints that you're gonna be looking for are gonna be based off of what the hips look like. So the hips should be back to a square position, and your shoulders should be closed about 45 degrees, meaning your left shoulder should be down and your right shoulder should still be up. Those are the 2 main checkpoints that you're gonna look for. Now, what we're gonna do here is remember that under no circumstance does it matter where your hands are or your arms are during any part of this drill to be the signal for when it's time to start moving left. The signal is when you get fully coiled. That's the real signal in the golf swing. So remember what we did in week number 1 is we created all that coiled up feeling. So we're gonna try to maintain that coiled feeling now as we start to make our movement back onto our lead foot. So it's gonna look like this. We're gonna still have the club flipped upside down. We're gonna have our right hand across our chest. And the reps are gonna look like this. So we're gonna turn into our trail side. As I get fully coiled, I'm gonna try to feel like I'm maintaining all this engagement in my core, and I'm trying to keep my arm back where it is. And if you notice, when I make this movement, what does my arm start to do? Well, my arm starts to feel like I've got some kind of tension in there, right? I'm reaching back into this sort of 9 o'clock position, and I'm turning back in the other way. I can actually feel my arms getting really loaded up and ready to fire. That's the beauty of sequence. It's not using the small muscles to fire first. You need to use the big muscles in the ground like I'm teaching you. So we're gonna do 25 very, very good reps here. And we're gonna back check on camera that we've met all of the requirements. So let's go ahead and do a set here. I'm gonna do a set of 5 and show you how to do it perfectly. Trying to maintain my coiled feeling, sitting down into the unload line. I'm gonna back check those reps. Did I form a straight line? Yep. My weight underneath my lead ankle. Is my hips back to square and my shoulders still closed? If they are, now you're ready for step number 3. So step number 3 is where we start making this whole thing a lot more realistic. But I want you to remember this, is that your hands and your arms actually do have function in the golf swing. Your hands and your arms in your backswing are gonna be elevating slightly and they're gonna be flexing. Now, what we're gonna be doing here is we're gonna be thinking about, as we start to finish off our body turn, we're gonna be trying to elevate our hands and arms so that they feel like they're moving above my right shoulder when I start to make that transition move onto my lead foot. And what you're gonna see is exactly what I outlined for you at the start of the video, where I talked about when somebody's in a really good sequence, when the hips and knees get back to a square position, you're always gonna see the best players, whether it's an amateur or a playing professional, with their lead arm parallel to the ground and their hands roughly or very close to the center of their chest. It can be a little bit forward or it can be a little bit behind that, just depending on the shot shape that they're gonna be trying to hit. But that's the sequence that a lot of you struggle to get because you're already overusing your hands and your arms. So you're now gonna know what to look for. Now, I will tell you this, I'm gonna give you the option, and I personally like the option when we have both hands on the club and we're doing this drill, is to have the club flipped upside down. If you have the heavy end down, then what you're gonna find is that as the hands and arms start to reach up above the right shoulder and you're moving left, is that a lot of that momentum and inertia that you're creating with your body is gonna start kind of pulling on the arms, and it's gonna be harder for you to be able to back check the positions. So I would tell you that I want you to do the 100 reps with the club flipped upside down. You can challenge yourself from time to time to put it over on the correct end, but stay disciplined in this process. So let me show you how this is gonna look now. So as I start to finish off my turn, again, my focus point is feeling like my hands and arms elevate above my right shoulder. As I'm fully turned and my hands are going that way, I'm gonna be sitting down on my lead foot. Okay, so let's see some reps here. Let's stop and take a look at some of those reps. Now, what we want to look for is the first thing that we worked on in step number 1. Am I moved up against the unload line? Yes. Are my hips and knees back to a square position? Yes. Are my shoulders still closed, left shoulder down, right shoulder up? You betcha. Now, is my lead arm still parallel to the ground? If it's a little bit below that or a little bit above that, totally fine. That's very dependent on how much elevation you bring to the mix. If you have those requirements met, you now have the link between your backswing and the transition all solved in your golf swing. And now it's time to start working really hard. These next 7 days are critical for you. You need 1,000 reps. 150 reps a day is what you're gonna go for. 25 warm-up reps on step number 1, 25 reps on step number 2, and 100 reps of the good ones that you just saw me do. If you follow this plan, you're gonna be ready for step number 3, where we start picking up the pace, we start adding in the post up and the release, the powerful movement, pulling that power out of the ground and let that club fly. You're gonna be learning how to get the whole system of movements to work perfectly from that 9 o'clock position all the way down through impact, and you're gonna be ready to start taking on the LSU drill in week number 4.